Hey, Christ St. Paul's. It's Kyle. I wanted to give you a short podcast about what's coming up in February. I'm sure that some of you would like to know a little bit more about the practice of solitude that we will be doing for 4 weeks. These are the 4 weeks leading into Lent, and it's on purpose for us. But without giving too much away and spoiling the content of the 4-week lesson, I will share about the practices as they are from Practicing the Way, the ministry group that is creating the content. Then I will share some of my thoughts about solitude as a practice, which I hope encourages you to register for the 4-week group. Practicing the Way is a ministry launched by John Mark Comer and others that focuses on helping followers of Jesus grow in their relationship with God through cultivating healthy spiritual discipline. Now, these spiritual disciplines are rooted in the life of Jesus, and they have been used by followers of Jesus, by his disciples, throughout the entire history of the church. Now, Practicing the Way identified 9 key disciplines that, when practiced, help the disciple follow Jesus in the world today. Following the Apostle Paul's exhortation to not be conformed to the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, you might be remembering, if you went on the parish retreat 2 years ago, we talked about these 9 practices. But these practices and disciplines are not in and of themselves holiness, right? You're not considered holy because you practice Bible reading or because you practice solitude or because you practice silence. They don't make you holy in and of themselves. But much like stretching and lifting weights in a workout routine, help put the body into a position to accomplish certain goals. Right? This is what it is with spiritual disciplines. Our spiritual disciplines put our mind, our body, our spirit into a position to experience the with God life, as Richard Foster likes to put it. Dallas Willard, in his classic book on spiritual disciplines, The Spirit of the Disciplines, he develops this idea in much greater detail, laying the foundation for a rigorous life of discipline for the sake of becoming the type of person who can experience God and the life-changing relationship that is. In order for the ordinary baseball player to become a star baseball player, is that he or she must become the kind of person that is a star. They have to put their body into a position to perform like a star. Well, how does that happen? Practice, right? Practice, lots of practice and discipline outside of the game, outside of the time of performance. The star will have, in mind, body, and spirit, cultivated, become the kind of person who can perform in the game at the level of a star. The player who is unwilling to practice and unwilling to cultivate and to prepare, well, they won't become the star. Now, I think you understand what I am saying, and these spiritual giants, Richard Foster, Dallas Willard, what they are talking about. It makes sense. I think we intuitively understand that discipline fosters a kind of life that we want, and this happens in all areas of our lives, right? You talk to the really wealthy. Let's talk about money, right? If you talk about the really wealthy, chances are that the multimillionaire wasn't simply lucky, but they cultivated a life of discipline around finances, right? This is who's the guru of money? Dave Ramsey, right? It's all about discipline when it comes to financial health. But it's the same way in the spiritual life. We would love to be with Jesus, to be like Jesus, and to do as Jesus did, but we often don't know how. We think we can simply jump into the game and perform and win. We think we can love our neighbors as ourselves and do unto others as we would like them to do unto us and sell everything we have and follow. We think we can do those things just by showing up, just because Jesus told us to. We think we can do it, but we are so often found quite disappointed at our performance at the time of loving, at the time of giving grace, at the time of forgiving, at the time of not being angry and sinning, right? You're allowed to be angry, but to be angry and not sin, well, that's a different thing altogether. But that's what it means to get into the ball game and to play and to win. It takes discipline, it takes practice. And that's what these practices are in the spiritual life. They are exercises in spiritual strength training. They are what allow you to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, and to do as Jesus did. Right? I think you're following along. The 9 disciplines that Practicing the Way has identified and are working to create 4-week practices, which are like mini group sessions, group source courses that are done over the course of 4 weeks. They are Sabbath, prayer, fasting, solitude, generosity, scripture, community, service, and witness. Now, my hope is that we as a church will help each other cultivate these disciplines in our lives through church-wide events like the one we're launching in February. So the four Thursday nights in February, we're going to come together and we're going to do the practice of solitude. But as well as in our formation groups, done at your pace and in your homes. And I know that several of you have already started and have done a few practices. Now, solitude is the one that we are going to do. And I have this wonderful book. I love this book. I recommend it. It could be on your shelf. You can borrow it from me. You can come look at it in the library if you like. But it's a Spiritual Disciplines Handbook by Adele Calhoun. It's fantastic. And what she says in her book about solitude, I think it's helpful for us. And you're going to learn, you'll learn much more through the 4 weeks of the practice. But in her book, she talks a little bit about solitude here. And essentially, she works through these things. That there's a desire that comes with each discipline. Each discipline or each practice is prompted by a desire in us. And so the desire that accompanies or that is the catalyst for doing solitude as a discipline is the desire is to leave people behind and enter into time alone with God. So that's the desire. But the solitude as a discipline itself is the practice that involves scheduling enough in uninterrupted time in a distraction-free environment that you experience isolation and are alone with God. Right? Solitude is a container discipline. Now, I like this idea. As a container discipline, it is a discipline in which you set yourself up to practice other disciplines. Right. So, when you are practicing solitude, you are also creating time to be able to read scripture, to pray, to do the discipline of examine, to journal, and etc. Right. So there's many things. It's a container discipline that you can do, and really the fruit that comes from practicing solitude is a freedom from the need to be occupied all the time or stimulated all the time. Right? They talk about this in the practice a lot. Is the idea that in our world today we are the most distracted and most informed most connected we have ever been in the history of our world, right? We have information constantly on download. We can answer any question we can dream of, really. And what solitude does is it removes the pressure of having so much information in you. So there's a freedom from the need to be occupied or stimulated. There is a moving away from letting the world squeeze you into its mold, right? As we Romans 12:2, as I already said, that we are not conformed to the world, but we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. And so that is the practical fruit of practicing solitude. Um, one of the great fruit of practicing solitude, and this is one of the things that we will experience or learn through the practice over the 4 weeks in February, is that solitude is kind of like the catalyst, is the place for us to be able to be quiet and for us to cultivate a greater awareness and capacity to hear God's voice. How wonderful it is to be able to hear God's voice, to be able to listen to Him speak back to you, and not just you yapping away, talking about this or that. Can I have this? Can I have that? Can you help me here? Can you help me there? But rather have a conversation with God to where you could hear His voice. Solitude is one of the best practices for cultivating the ability to do that. And so beyond that, right, we hope that this practice of solitude that we will have over the 4 weeks in February will be able to lead you into a greater Lent, not only Lent, but to lead you into a better and enlivened and closer relationship with God. Our hope is to be able to follow Jesus, or to be able to be with Jesus, to follow Jesus and to do as He did, right? To be like Him and to do as He did. That's our hope and that's our desire as we launch these practices, and as the Practicing the Way course as well comes again next time. We'll try it again next time. There's going to be plenty of other people who are going to need to take that 8-week primer course on spiritual formation. But this time we will launch on February 6th. The registration is open. You can register for the course or for the 4-week practice of solitude online on our website. You'll see it in the newsletter that comes to you in your email, and you can register for that. It's going to be a wonderful time of learning and cultivating a deeper relationship with God. And so I invite you to join us for the practice of solitude.